Okay.
So this is our fourth session from the beginning. Okay, yeah, it's in Friday, 6th of May. Okay, then we can start.
Yeah, right. So who would like to, so how do you guys have planned to update us about
Well, can I?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
because
okay.
this is an update. So, well, who's that? Ah, Len. Thing is that progress is slow because we gathered on Thursday or Wednesday, and okay,
Wednesday.
Wednesday, and try to tackle the issue, and realize that we have many issues with the issue. So we kind of divided some. We said that okay, let's have each person search some topics related to the subject, so we have a better view. Thankfully, we have some people who are more acquainted with the whole sustainability and with the whole topic anyhow, and that helped. But yeah, at this point, we're just trying to figure out a bit more about the situation and how it is, especially in Crete. Also, we had some issues with. We were trying to figure out the process of the whole design thinking because we were not sure exactly what we needed to do at this stage. So basically, that's where we are.
Okay. So I guess one of my questions is, so we left on Wednesday, on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah. So on Tuesday we ended the session with the 4 categories.
Yes.
The grid, anyways, where we kind of said let you guys kind of start thinking about some scenarios where there is a kind of a space where you can potentially be then ideating in the next week. Have you had a chance to actually try to kind of put some things within those 4 categories to get the sense of of some type of process relationship between different elements, you know what I mean?
Yes. We started sticking stickers on the wall on the 4 categories.
Was it on the same day or another day?
Another day. Another day when we met on Wednesday.
So you met Wednesday, the team all together?
Yeah. Everyone, okay. Even Ahmed. That wasn't there last time, I mean.
Yeah.
And we literally started, going back and forth, trying to derive some concepts from the other wall.
How did that go? Did that work as something that made sense as a process? Was it something that you struggled with?
Well, we struggled a bit because, again, we spent most of the time in the beginning, at least, trying to decide, okay, what we need to do. So we ended up, okay, as I understand and as we understand in general, is that we need to decipher, in a sense, what we wrote on the chaos of the one wall, that chaotic thing, and funnel it into something more clear.
More focus. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. So we got that right in a sense, at least the idea of the process. But still, we realized that especially for each part of what we divided on the other wall, we have some gaps of knowledge. So we said, okay, we divided those parts into sub-parts and said, okay, let's have each person research something extra so we can fill in the background a bit more.
Yeah. Is it worth talking about? You have any kind of? Can you give us a few kind of things that you looked at, so we kind of get also an idea of what did you actually try to explore and where were the gaps in knowledge?
I mean,
feel now.
Honestly, what mostly happened is that from the how can I put it? From that wall of many, I don't know, points that we had.
You have some spaces anyways. You gathered some information in different
we
spaces.
kind of arranged them and rewrote them in a more clear way on the other wall.
Yeah.
But we didn't manage to make
a
constellation of ideas. If
So
we say that the one wall is all the stars and we wanted to make a constellation on the other one, we didn't manage that. And we didn't exactly, I'm sorry, last one. And we didn't exactly manage to add much new information to it, at least yet.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Just so from what I understand is the kind of you're missing a kind of narrative that makes a connection between the different categories. As here's a story: a grower, producer, moving to the kind of processing of the product, and how that product is moved through the supply chain, and that how it reaches the customer. So the kind of narrative of that's what you're missing right now. That's what I understand, correct?
I mean, we did have conversations about narrative conversation about specific producers, let's say specific sectors of production, in the sense of if it's olive oil, it starts there, goes there, ends there, and goes there. But I think we said also in the other meeting we had that we don't try to find the specific, like a narrow story, but a more general one. Or did we miss that?
Well, the one that I remember is that we said some a narrative, like a timeline, when we said about if we have well-informed consumers, then they will search for high quality and value-added products. So the producers will be also informed to produce these kinds of products. So a very well education is a circle between consumers and producers, and includes also the distributional channel. So I think the education is a key element that we can start or use use it for our story to be told.
What I'd say when you're, doing a mapping, you can start, and I think we were describing this. I hope it came across. You can start with a producer so for example, if we were working directly with a producer, we would have all of their tensions. We'd understand their capabilities, we'd begin to understand the gaps in knowledge, the gaps in their capabilities. Because we haven't done that, the other really good way to start is to ask the question as an end user. Put yourself into that situation and say, well, what am I looking for? How do I validate the things I consume? Am I someone that looks at the label? So as a group, you could create the discussion from a consumer end user and then put that back into the matrix, because what you get is all of the things that you think are either becoming more credible or more important to, so if we're moving into a world where everyone is concerned about balance in the ecosystem, how much of that starts with the consumer making demands back to the growers and the producers, and how do you validate across that? How do we get the confidence as consumers that what we are buying and who we're buying from we have trust, we have that, and you could create sort of all of the values that are going to give you the confidence to go to a particular brand, a particular product. So maybe where you can't, because, you know, if you can't get knowledge initially from an industry, you can really think about trending within consumer behavior, knowledge and understanding. And that then, if you like, going back into that pushes back to say, well, these are going to be real issues. So when you then start talking to growers and producers, you're matching expectations. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So now that's fine if it's something that you put in a pack. So if I buy my olive oil, it comes in a container. But if I'm buying avocados or I'm buying vegetables from the market, what's my traceability in that sense? You know, so from a very small producer that's selling direct to a customer, consumer, how do I know that I'm buying from the right people? Now, obviously, you know, relationships are important. So that might be a direct relationship. I know this grower, I keep seeing this person at the market, I like their product, they tell me about the product. And that's very much the one-to-one. We trust people because we believe in their story. But if it's coming into a supermarket, but it's still the avocados in a display, how do we know that they're organic? How do we know they're grown responsibly? We don't. We're then trusting a much bigger organization, and that means you're going to have gaps. So what might be the things that actually the consumer still needs to transition from a product that's you know, not necessarily ecologic to something that's better? You know, where does that knowledge transfer come from? Is that is it the supermarket needs to take that liability and responsibility? So you can put in lots of things where if you don't know, and there's a lot we don't know, you put that in as another question. So that becomes a tension. You know, none of these mappings, what they're there to do is to really exploit and categorize things that we know, things that we don't know, and to try to place them. And if we get that, then you can see if problems exist in all of the supply chains, in all of the production systems, then you can begin to ideate about how do you make improvements? How do you tell new stories, you know, from grower to producer? And so don't get too worried if you think, well, I didn't quite understand what Neil and Manos were saying. A lot of this, it's what's happening within your group. Are you confident that when you're placing these things as a group, you're in the same space? You know, your mindset is, yeah, that's pretty much what we're all agreeing to. So these sorts of mappings, a lot of it is within a group. It's a way of sharing that everyone is taking has the same perspective, the same sense of, you know, solid, good knowledge, and also the things that are the unknown, because that allows you then to tease out where you need to be directing, where you can see opportunity, where you can be more, you know, perhaps put some creative ideas together, you know, and that's how you build the sort of a platform of understanding. And equally, it's a way when you're talking then to the producers, the converters, you know, from the olive to the olive oil, blah, blah, blah. What you're able to do is have a set of criteria that you would take to each of those for discussion and further clarification. And, you know, sometimes you get very clear answers, but other times, you know, you will find that those ideas they will grow if you get the confidence of the people that you're working with. So the difficulty in this exercise is we don't have, as yet, we don't really have the tensions of the grower, because we're in a theoretical space, but so the only place we can start from, I think, is from us as consumers, because we you know, in our day-to-day lives, we we are having these tensions about what we consume, what we're trying to do that's ethical and responsible. And if there are consumers that we know that don't care, why is it they don't care? Where's the mistrust? Where is it? What is it that we could do or think about doing that, you know, transitions people to be demanding or being interested much more in sustainable ecosystems within the food system and the food chain. So I think the important thing is just to, you know, the number of times we've been working, we've put things together and then we look at it, we step back. And because we've owned the ideas, we step back and we look at it and go, that's not right. You know, there isn't, until you model and remodel, there's no absolutes in this. And anything that is, you know, fuzzy problems or wicked problems, it takes a lot of filtering. And at the end of the day, you still only end up with a model, but that model becomes tangible because you can describe it. You can describe a scenario, you can build a narrative, and you can take that to your producers or your processors or the people in the supply chain and say, this is what we think this looks like. This might be a better way of looking at it, or this might be a way that you can innovate to do something that really brings that challenge to the consumer and builds, if you like, you know, confidence. So the important thing is to have a go, step back, look at it and go, no, that's not, you know, if it's not right, do we move it? If there's a category missing, do we add it? And that's very much about, you know, none of this is fixed. As I said in my talk at the beginning, the process of thinking you've got key stages, you know, it's valuable to, you know, where other people are modeling and saying, well, there are these sort of stages we go through. The reality is, within a situation, you will be adding stages because the complexity of these types of ecosystems will demand refinement. And so it may well that you might go from 4 to 6 to 8, you know, depending on what you're beginning to reveal or that you think is a problem space that doesn't sit well in any group. So it's as much about the interaction between yourselves from a consumer perspective, and then it's a sort of push back to try and sort of create and frame some ideas and questions that you would give to a producer. Right, Manos is.
I'm here.
He's here, right. Does that make sense? I mean, I feel like I've spoken for quite a time here. I shouldn't.
Well, it kind of does, yes. So as I understood, basically, that the ideal way to proceed is to see ourselves from our point of view as consumers, and through that point of view, create going backwards in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
One way of doing that, if as a group, is if everyone agreed to, you know, if you're aware of something in the marketplace or a relationship that you have, is to describe it. You know, I'll give you a little example. I have a friend who's has a coffee company, and he built his coffee company on a brilliant brand identity, but he also built it on, you know, from day one, it was all about trust. It was not just putting a label of fair trade on a pack of coffee. It was proving that his relationship to the growers was absolute. You know, this is a guy that has worked out the whole ecosystem of coffee production. So he spends time in Nicaragua or Peru, and he works with the growers, and they're all cooperative growers. So what he's done is he started telling the story about what responsible coffee production was, what value-added product was, why his brand is sort of sub-premium. And as soon as because he did that from the minute he started being running a coffee roasting business, he ended up with a brand that was 100% based on trust. You know, the people that consume great taste, great product, but there are other people in that very busy market space. But because he was able, you know, and you know, the way he communicated to his customer, the way he decided to develop a business that, if you like, was connected to location, because he could have just said, well, I'm making this product, I'm going to take it to the supermarkets and sell it. He didn't do that. He started off making a product that sold locally. And so he's got to a point. So it started in the town, the village, you know, and the whole thing has grown as ecologically as the product is. You know, so it's based on trust systems within a local community, to then becoming more and more expansive. And then the care of where he wanted to sell the product and where he wouldn't sell the product. Like you know, so the businesses, as he supplies into other resellers, has been about the quality of what they're doing. So his story doesn't change, because he was selling into a store that only is selling high quality, bio-sustainable product. Then his pack sitting there is not compromised by other products. Now that's a difficult business model to make, because it's slow. It's like slow business, you know, as a concept, that you start with an ideal, you never change the ideal, and then you have to work out how that product and system can be grown outwardly to become national or international business. You know, and that meant that, you know, early days, I used to joke with him and say, oh, it's just a lifestyle business. Because, you know, this guy is a brilliant barista, you know, he can put you any sort of pattern on a coffee you like. Weirdly, at his production work, there's a whole cafe. He only opens the cafe about 6 times a year. And he runs events, and he uses it to sponsor all sorts of charitable work. So we all, you know, the whole community, when they're opening the cafe on 6 times a year, who's not going to go? It's a party. You know, it ends up where, you know, it's a big cafe, but people are outside and you know, and okay, he runs the cafe when he's talking to other people who are going to resell, you know. So if you were a client and he wants to, you know, put his coffee in your store, you go and you meet him in that cafe and you drink some great coffee, and he tells the story of what he's doing and his relationship to the whole of the world industry of coffee. So it's very clever, but he, you know, his commitment is to do only responsible. So, you know, that's here's me storytelling, but that's a way, you know, that if you were changing an ecosystem, it's all trust, isn't it? Everything we're looking at here, one of the key things that might be a headline is, how do we trust? How do we gain our confidence to understand what other people are trying to achieve? You know, and if you get the trust, then, you know, where big industry says, oh, it's all about price point, or it's all about certain other conditions, you can shift that, and it becomes more about product quality, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, maybe it's worth you ideating from growers and then saying, well, if we tell growers what we demand, or what we believe the demand will be, or the changes will be, and then you research how much that growth is influencing the world, then we can push that back into the system the other way.
Do you guys look at labels? A curiosity, when you purchase products, is that a habit? Is that, well, you know, labels? When I say labels, it can be anything that is produced by a brand that tells you how the product is made, you know, what type of ingredients they use, whether they have any marketing material that says, well, we use only sustainable kind of practices, we only source our ingredients locally, blah, 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 blah. Do you do that? Is that something, I mean, or how many of you anyways?
For me,
I see Elena nodding her head. So that's good, Elena. Anybody else? Do you guys do that?
I think not really.
Not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
But,
me, it depends on the product, honestly, and very much depends on the products, how much I'm interested in the quality of the specific product that I want to consume. But for most products, I would say no.
So will you say that the reason for that, I mean, saying that we all want to achieve sustainability, yes? I think
Yeah.
that's why we're doing this project as well. Like we really want to kind of see a world where the agriculture and all the practices around the agri sector is kind of achieving a sustainable model, model of practice. Yes, so we agree we want to achieve sustainability, we care about it. Yeah.
Okay, yes.
So I mean, I think that's very important if we're going to design or think about solutions, obviously. Right, so why do you think as consumers you don't bother really kind of finding out whether products that you buy from a shop, supermarket, whatever it is, or a grower, whether, you know, why you're not actually asking the question, have you produced this product? Is this product produced through a sustainable approach or not? Why are you not doing it currently? You know, this again, it's not a critique. Yeah, I'm just asking out of, because you know, if we want to know what consumers need to know, we need also to know why consumers don't ask questions about things to know, if that makes sense.
One thing is the price, I think. Yeah.
But the price is a choice. Like, you don't choose a product because it's more expensive. Is that what you're saying? I suspect. Yeah.
Not exactly. I'm saying that
I think the opposite. If it's expensive, you won't buy it because,
Elena, just let him finish. Sorry.
for example, if you are going to buy a biological product or sustainable product, most of them are more expensive. Okay. So it depends also.
So the price stops you from buying a product that is perhaps more sustainable. But the alternative is something that is, again, slightly cheaper, but is it a bit, you make a comparison between the cheaper products based on whether they have some more ethical practice?
Yes, of course, but in the end, you finish something somewhere in the middle, you know, not the cheapest one that is not healthy, not the.
Okay, so it's like trying to find that sweet spot, which is kind of both value for money, but also as ethical as possible. So kind of, okay, sorry, Elena, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, most commonly, the cheapest products have a negative balance to the environment, but a positive balance to the consumers because they are cheaper. They are cheaper. So the question is, how can we change this balance to a more eco-friendly way?
It's a challenge on its own. So, for example, you know, I guess, okay, so tension. Consumer wants to have a more ethically produced and sustainable product, but price is a negative determinant. Yeah, it's something that stops you. So how do you go back and say to, well, how do you kind of explore them and investigate, okay, so why is it more expensive, for example? And is there something in this process that can reduce the cost up to the point that reaches the customer at the end in a more, does it make sense?
Neil, can I?
Yes and no, isn't it? It's not that simple, obviously.
Yeah, because organic foods are need to grow more. So this time is translated to money for the producers. So I think one reason for being so expensive is this: organic food need the double or more time to grow, and without pesticides and stuff like that. Lefteris.
And I
Yes.
sorry. Okay, actually, I do agree that for most people, price is an issue for most consumers. But mostly I believe, okay, it may be from my point of view, but I mostly believe that people either don't know much about sustainability in general. They don't have the time to care, honestly. So and again, it depends very much on the product they consume and how much weight or gravity they put on that specific product and the quality. General, like a vegetable or whatever, like pasta, coffee even. The average person doesn't, make a huge analysis in his head of, okay, this is better quality because this goes in this process and that seed goes into its production and it's more ethical and all that. No, they just go from what they know, and what they know is a specific taste, a specific thing that they are used to consuming. So there's some an
I
elasticity.
agree. I've seen that behavior as well. It's as common, like really not bothering about it.
And that is basically, it has to do with how you sell sustainability in the sense to the consumers. Because, for example, my mother loves to go and buy organic vegetables and all that because she has heard that it's more healthy for you, but she hasn't researched actually the benefits of it, if there are any benefits, but she's willing to pay a higher price for it because she has heard that it's widely accepted that they are better.
Yeah. I think what we've got to be careful about is, if we look at this in a timeline sense, a lot of what we're describing is in the now. It's today, it's tomorrow, next week. If we look against the challenge, the European challenge about European agri-sustainability, there's going to, through legislation, this is going to be a push back to the growers and the producers to really justify their methods of production and quality. So some of this will evaporate because there will be no choices, but the transitioning, and this is the whole space of this project, is that transitioning has been really telescoped because of the global impact, the global warming, and all of the problems that the planet is facing. Then European Commission and everyone is saying, well, how do we now really telescope down, really take a lens now that says this is where we need to be, and if that is irrevocable and unchanging, how do we get there quicker, and how do we support our industries to do these changes? So part of it is not just that there will be continually the choice of, the cheap versus the expensive, bio-safe product at one end. It's all going to happen, and the difficulty is how do you get the story from the producer to the end user about what that sustainability line looks like, and what effects does it have, and therefore, how does you drive new knowledge so that it isn't just price point, because that will evaporate. Price will not be in 5-10 years time the key issue. It's going to be much more about how do we consume. How do we know more about things like seasonality when we should be consuming? Well, because we become so universal, we eat what we like, when we like, whenever we like, and that will change. Our patterns of consumption will have some effect. Seasonality, for example, will have an effect, and that goes all the way back down the chain to the producers and growers. So I wouldn't over-fixate on, if you like, the problem now. We're not trying to change the problem for next year. We're trying to change the we're trying to look at this as a whole sort of ecosystem, and moving forward into the future to give the supply chain, the growers, the producers, time to adapt, but to adapt more quickly. And then it's a case of, you know, what is in their knowledge banks now, what is absolutely missing, and what do you need to build into it to give them that agility. So let's not fixate too much on, you know, price versus quality, because that, I think, as a metrics will become slightly redundant. It's we need to be jumping ahead and sort of future proofing. So that's one thing. I think on the other, a way for you guys to be understanding, you know, you were describing, well, there's some things are really important to me, so I check ingredients labels. It'd be really good to know between yourselves what those products are. You know, what is it that you take care over? You know, what is it that helps you make those decisions? You know, is it, you know, fashion items? Is it our clothing? Do you look for natural fabric? Blah, blah, blah. I think it's important that, you know, you guys talk around the things that are important to you and why you make key choices, maybe to spend more, you know, on what you believe the reason for that is, because that, to understand maybe why you're doing that in other sectors, whether it's well-being products, you know, cosmetics, or whether it's connected to fashion or to, you know, the vehicles we drive or whatever. I think that's something to discuss, and why that's important, because if you can move a behavior from one category, it's much easier to then think about why and what is it that's making that confident shift into something else. So that would be a productive thing, just to map out your own sort of patterns of consumption at a very personal level and the choices that you're making. Because then you can create parallels, or possibly define places where you could, you know, take some of that model of why and then place it and see, well, could that exist in the more day-to-day consumer products and, you know, food in this case. Okay, any other thoughts? So if you're going back to the wall to actually repopulate, maybe try what we've said. Do this from you know, your own sort of patterns of consumption. If you're struggling with food stuff, you could do another simple mapping around the products you buy, and reverse engineer, reverse that, and think, well, why am I making these decisions about you know, the things you identify? I mean, I find myself now, annoyingly, if I'm buying any clothing, I'm tending to look and see how much it's natural fibers, or whether it's using recycled materials, or whether it's there's, you know, within the purchase, there's some sort of sustainable, responsible behavior going on. You know, certain stores in the UK I'd never go and buy any clothing from, because I just believe they're totally unethical. But that's sort of like a personal tick. It's something that drives me. Oh, yeah, you know. So there's parts of the high street I just walk straight past, you know, with, no, not going in there, where other people don't. And that might be again, purely based around the economics about, you know, low price, blah, blah, blah. But it'd be interesting to sort of think that through, about where people are making these, if you like, much more qualitative judgments about consumption. And that might, it's those triggers that you might be able to put into the system we're looking at, and think, well, how could we utilize that as a mechanism? And if that's just about our own emotional sense of responsibility or whatever. I think that might be another way to get into this space in a bit more detail.
And the other thing we were discussing the other day with Neil and Kostas was the possibility of actually getting a person or persons, producers that we know, but actually in the olive production and also in the avocado production, to come over next Tuesday and give you a kind of where you can actually have a kind of quick Q&A with them to find out what are their challenges from their point of view, and how can that fit then to your thinking around the solution spaces or the challenges. You can actually start thinking about solutions. And one idea that we were wondering, and I think you, Lefteri, I think you mentioned that you kind of have the experience in the olive production, and Elena in the avocado. From the point of view of Elena, I remember we said it was her husband. I don't know whether that would be possible, for example, for him to join us in the conversation for half an hour or so. Or you, Lefteri, if you have a person who's more kind of, let's say, if it's not you, the most knowledgeable person in the process, if you want to bring somebody who has more experience and is more on the day-to-day basis in this.
I mean, I represent literally the average olive oil producer in the island, in the sense that we have our family fields.
This is your family production, fine.
Yeah.
I've got that as well.
So we produce enough for us, and the excess is sold.
But you're not actually trying to get to the market. That's so there's no.
No, we're just trying to make the best out of what we have. We produce organic olive oil actually, and sell that, and usually it has a better price actually in the market.
But do you sell it? That's what I'm trying to say. Do you make?
We are not producer to consumer. We sell it in the whole.
So perhaps we need to find, and then again, do we have from our contacts, from your network, do we have some contacts or people that we know that they could just again join, that half an hour meeting next Tuesday?
I know someone who deals with growing and selling of aromatic plants and medicinal plants actually here in Crete.
Okay.
Question is if they have the time to
yes, of course.
I will have talk with them and try to see. But that would be interesting.
Question for Eleni, not Elena. Eleni, I don't know if she's around. If she's
can I suggest something?
Yes, of course. Yes. Hello, Eleni. Good morning.
I'm listening. I'm here. I'm listening.
To
be honest, I'm trying to do also some other job because I don't want to intervene, and because that's the floor for you, the guys, basically.
But you're always welcome, to speak and at any point.
Thank you.
You're the expert as well.
So as far as the question is concerned about who could join, somebody who could join probably, I would think of one or two employees of Maif that are also deal with olive oil production, like Psilakis, Lefteri, Psilakis. He works in the graphic design, and probably he would. I don't know if we could somehow ask him, and also Dimitra Pelekano. She's involved in organic. I think they are both involved in organic production of olive oil. So probably, if we could ask them, they could join for one of them.
But for too long, it's really just giving us a bit of their viewpoint in terms of their challenges, the things that they are worried about, concerns about the future, things about have to do with their practice, and that's pretty much something that the team can then record and
Yeah.
ideation.
Yeah, but you know, I think that we have to be very specific. If we invite one of them to join us, probably Nikos is the best. Psyllakis is the best choice, I would say. Most probably, I can ask him in any case. We have to be very specific on what we actually want to learn. I mean, so in order to get the most of him, his experience, I mean, we need to be very specific. So is the question the difficulties that he finds in selling the product? No, this is not the question. Is the question how he thinks the consumer thinks about his product? Is this one question? Or is the question, what are the what his general belief and out of his experience, what is his experience in regard the production of olive oil, and what about his the other producers, what the other producers think of that. I mean, we need to be very specific on what we're going to ask him. Or another scenario would be just to invite him and ask him to speak about his ideas and what a general question like what do you think about organic olive oil production now in the area of Chania? So that might be an option.
So one exercise for the team will be in this case to collectively think about a list of questions they would like to ask, and then share that, of course, with us on I think Bandcamp or anywhere, a Basecamp, not Bandcamp. Sorry.
There is also some indicative questions in the design brief, and also don't forget that the target of our design brief, the description is that we would like to know the implications of the Green Deal to the skills of this kind of producers. So as we know and understand, all these producers that have adopted or not some kind of sustainability activities, they are doing for two reasons. One reason is they can expect some increasing marketing demand in their product. And this, I think, is the main reason for these that have adopted now these approaches, and the other is because of the legislation. So what we would like to know is, do they know what is going to happen the next year and how they are going to adopt on this? Why they choose to do this kind of agriculture or food processing according to sustainability? If they don't, why they don't? And we are going to list down what are these wicked problems, because as we saw in the table guys have prepared, there are so many issues. We have social factors. Consumers, they do not like to buy because they feel it's nothing serious. There is a matter of trustiness. Then there is a matter of tracking the quality. There is a matter of technical knowledge. There is entrepreneurial ability, a lot of issues. And now we have to filter all these messed challenges into some clear, to put aside some that we think that not so basic and focus in some of them and find solutions. So it's very good now to engage the stakeholders, and the stakeholders, the target group are the producers. Either some of them are already dealing with this kind of biological, organic, and all the Green Deal or sustainable, cyclical, any kind of this kind, or not, because also we're interested in those that are not dealing with this. Why? Do they know that they're going to face some implications in the next 5 years or not? So also stakeholders is not only the producer, but also some people that are in the phase of policy making, like the Chamber of Commerce. Maybe we can have to ask him, do you know that all the enterprises here, the food sector, are going to face, and what are you going to do for this? Are you going to imply some new rules or laws that are going to affect them? Do they know how to afford this new situation? So as a first step, it's very good to call them and ask why they are doing this. if they know what is going to happen next years, and if they feel that they are missing some skills or knowledge or anything, and have something also in general, what are their challenges, their feelings they have for the work in the next year. I think this is, and also I think they have these questions also in the design brief, and we can refine them, add some there and omit some other that now we don't think that are essential to know.
Yeah, do you guys keep notes of this? so yes, great. So basically one approach I'd suggest, and I don't know if Neil, you agree.
And one final thing, basic, to have some kind of personas of these people that are dealing with organic, most probably are young persons, we don't know, and are educated or not. All these kind of people have a specific characteristic that are dealing with sustainability. Because from my close cycle of people that I know that are dealing with organic oil, there has some kind of university degrees, and now they want to get back to have more advanced, have some social culture different than some others. So it's very important to build some kind of personas of the people who are speaking, because you just, Eleftheris is a person that you can see him, that is not like the traditional one in the villages. She's dealing with organic. He has some kind of education. So the person that I know, also that I have already proposed him to attend one meeting. I don't know if he can come to Hania. Already is the same profile with Lefteris. He also has added some other issues, because I saw his site that he's collaborating with a university in Athens to have some certification. He has also added a lot of diet, like how to cook with olive oil, and try to make some value added in his product. So we're very much interested. He's also going to exhibitions. He's going to contests to find some, what Neil spoke about, the trustedness of the product of the consumer. So would like to hear from them and build their profile. What are the people that are dealing with this kind of the new generation, let's say.
Yeah. So that's great. So if we have, I mean, that's Kostas, if you can contact that person, you can also get this person also in with a group, that'd be great. See whether that's possible. And likewise, I will go back to Elena, not Eleni, Elena. I don't know if your husband will be, for example, available to join us to talk us about the avocado production, if that's possible again. If not, then kind of, if we know anybody else that we can bring, great.
Let's focus on these two products, I think, because it's better for us to have specific problems, let's say. We have this challenge of Green Deal, and let's focus in olive oil and avocado.
Yeah,
I agree.
And can be case studies.
So one thing that the team can do is kind of draft a list of questions that do you think are really important, or do you think that you like to ask these people, so you prepare that. And then perhaps before the meeting on Tuesday, ideally, let's say Monday, by Monday evening or something, you share that with us, so we kind of have a look, and we can advise you if you need to kind of reframe a question differently, or kind of just make sure that, you know, we kind of have a feedback. We'll give you some feedback on the questions that you have produced. And then, you know, ideally we'll have that, we bring those questions on during our meeting next Tuesday. And we have these conversations, and, you know, then the workshop becomes a part of, let's record now those conversations and those insights, and how then we can then use them to develop some challenges and some scenarios and some ideas around that. Make sense? What do you guys think?
Makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah. I would also like to add something about creating a profile. We should be cautious of not being biased. Because maybe our social circle, can I say that? Maybe may include specific people with same characteristics. So we should broad broad the picture.
Yeah.
But we can have many personas, not one.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
sometimes, if you read the training material, sometimes because let's say the stakeholders or the target group, there's so many, hundreds. You cannot deal with everyone separately. So you make some personas, 1, 2, 4, 5, 10. In our case, we're not working for 1 year, do not have this ability. We have some time limit. So in terms of methodology, it's good to build 3 personas, let's say, two. What would you like to build? And say, okay, this is the characteristics of one persona that is dealing with this, the 2, the second, the third, and good to have it there as a methodology. We're not going to make to restructure the agroalimentary sector increase now with this project. It's just a methodology to make the basic steps for some person to get to start dealing with this approach, because we know that everybody now is dealing with this innovation. Design thinking is innovation tool in every business, everywhere. So it's somehow a good start for us to state somewhere that, yes, now we face this problem. We have to write somehow the profile of this kind of people that are dealing now in this sector, not everywhere, but in these 2 products in Crete. It's going to be useful, I think.
What I would caution, and I agree, Kostas, but Elena, you know, what you're saying is so right. It's very easy to model around people that are like-minded because they are the most likely at the start of something like this. They're most likely the people to engage with it. A way of removing that early bias, I mean, it's if we had more time and this project was, you know, an ongoing thing, you would actually go to growers that are, you know, very small growers, very traditional, maybe that you know, not even aware of changes with legislation, etc. And you would create the personas from different types and different scale of production. One of the things that can help us when we're doing, if you guys are building a series of questions, is not to bias the questions by asking highly specific initially questions, but asking more general things like, you know, what are the tensions in their business now? So we just get the reality of what the tensions are, and might, you know, that can be everything from, you know, what they can, the size of the market, the risks to the market, the risks to production, the blah, 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 all of the challenges that they face. And then we slowly build, you know, for example, if we say, are you aware of the Green Deal? They might go, yeah, sort of. If it's better to say, are they, you know, are they aware of any external influences that might impact on the business? So a way of removing bias is to not ask direct questions about the problem space we're in, but to understand the space that they're in as growers, producers, and the knowledge and where they are perhaps looking for support, or they are, you know, it's like Kostas was saying to us yesterday about, you know, fertilizer sales and the licensing that goes, and that producers have to be, you know, that was something that I was not aware of. And I think, well, you know, that was something that.
So I was like, producers need to be trained and certified in order to use fertilizers,
but it,
or to actually be able to purchase.
Yeah, so it's information that, you know, if we can extract information by carefully asking questions around the space, at least at the initial part of any conversation, then that will help to remove some of the bias, because then we can get what if people start to say that they are trying to build an ecosystem that is in their own personal space about a sort of production and sales and, you know, finding the market, then once we have that generality and we carefully record that, I think we can then start to funnel into more structured questions about impact of legislation, impact of sort of the more global issues. So it's never going to be perfect, and we haven't got the time to do that, exactly as Kostas was saying, but I think we can I think we can be careful and get the best information in the time that we can by, and again, as Manos says, if we can have an idea of what you want to ask and help you structure that, so on the day we're not building a bias, we're just knowledge, we're doing a knowledge transfer from these people, that would be fantastic. So that, you know, we can look at the survey and say, well, maybe we restructure it in this way or that way so that we get the best information we can. But yeah, absolutely, Elena, you're absolutely right. The way of trying to not get bias is something that, you know, design thinking challenges. It's one of the reasons that you tend to go round, you tend to have to approach things in a completely different mindset. You know, it's always been the problem when if you ask someone, if you go out and you do some market research and you ask something about a product, most people want to please. So they go, oh yeah, it's great, you know. So there's always this thing that, you know, the direct market surveys are hopeless. They really don't give any valuable data at all in many cases. And a lot of organizations have had to try and find much more complex methods through observational research and behaviors research to actually get rid of the biases where people all the time want to have a positivity, even if it's, you know, as they go out the door, say, oh, I'd never use that. And, you know, and that's a big issue in getting a real data, you know, but as I say, a great point to make, but I think we have to be, in this case, we have to work quickly and efficiently as we can to actually have some sort of, you know, to complete the project with hopefully, you know, some insights, and they won't be perfect, and that's fine, but it's having those insights and possibilities, you know. And if we're going back, you know, to the European Commission and saying, well, this Green Deal is great, but you're not doing much to, you know, really to inform the growers and the producers, let alone the consumer, then, you know, that would be very useful. You know, if there has to be new sort of information, highways and sharing of ideas, probably has to happen much quicker than perhaps the European Commission is thinking.
Yeah.
So we can't make it perfect, but I think we can be clever enough to remove as much bias in the conversation as we possibly can. I think I've said enough, actually. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Elena has something to say?
Yes, I have an idea to suggest. When Neil talked, I was thought that it would be useful to us to make a SWOT or a pestle analysis. If we have them in a board in the wall, I think we will find the risk. We will think of any tensions of these markets. I think it will be a very good start.
Yep,
cool,
great.
Agree.
Totally agree.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah,
and in fact, so if we are to meet with people, then perhaps that's something that we share with them, that we're going to do strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, so that it broadens the conversation. But you know, if perhaps in the first 5 minutes we just try and understand the world that they're in and their tensions and their, you know, positives, that I think would be a very good place to just get a, if you like, that broad brush overview, and then doing an analysis will it'll keep the energy, because people will start to think, yeah, oh, I've got this, and you know, it's a very good way of creating that slightly more in-depth mindfulness from them. So yeah, a very good point. We'll do that.
Right. So yeah, that to me, it sounds, I think for us, sounds like a good plan. So I guess the task you have to kind of complete now as a team is thinking about a list of questions, and we need those by Monday, as soon as possible, basically. So we can also kind of have a feedback on those. And
Hi.
The director wants to say hi.
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kostas. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Nice to see you all happy in this
Hello.
springtime.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, guys.
Very good.
Right. So any other things we like to ask? Any questions? Are we good to...
Can I say something just as a general conclusion? I would suggest, because time is very limited, and the effort put by the guys participate in the team is already big, okay, and they're also personal time to be devoted to this issue, to this effort, to this endeavor is also limited. So just to say that certainly we are not going to save and find the best solution, as Costa said before, for the agri-food sector in Crete. Okay, it's this is not the scope of this exercise, first of all. Second, we need to try to focus a bit on the question on what is the aim of all this, because the aim is actually to, as far as I have seen in this in the initial paper, in the design brief that Kostas prepared a few days ago at the beginning, that we need to focus on what the farmers actually need, and what are the changes they need to face now and in the future.
Yeah.
So, and third, for sure, the list and of the opportunities, threats, even if we create a SWOT analysis or whatever we call it, certainly this list is not going to be an endless one. I mean, an exhaustive one. Okay, so it's because it's an endless, but
yes.
So we have to somehow shorten our expectations. Be ambitious, but also realistic. But also realistic on what our achievement is going to be, and what the final product is going to be. So
Yeah.
I think just for the guys, because it's very good to have brainstorming, and you know, we have very good ideas, and also we need to focus a bit on what's happening here in Crete or in Greece. I don't know, it's in the area, and rather than, you know, talking about what's happening everywhere in the world. Yes.
Lenny, it's very good that we mentioned and we have persons now, and they're dealing specifically with two complementary products of Crete, like olive oil, which is very basic and have a lot of issues that we have to face, but also avocado, which is kind of a new product and has some different approaches in the market. We have cosmetics, we have many other things we don't know. So I think we have to focus there and not be brought to aromatic things and then with some kind different. So maybe we're going to complement the title of the design brief about the implications of Green Deal, the case of avocado and olive oil in Crete. This could be very good, as seems, and very specific to our design report that we're going to have afterwards at the end. If you agree, I think.
Yep.
And kind of, I guess, just to a last point, but a last thing that is important is we need to get confirmation of who is going to actually attend on next Tuesday, just to make sure that we know that we have secured some people, and if we don't, then we need to kind of see. So, for example, I mean, we know from Eleni that you're going to be conducting the olive oil producer that you mentioned. Kostas, you mentioned about another stakeholder that potentially.
This person will have a meeting tomorrow. I don't know if he can come because it's far away from here, and he needs at least 3 hours. One to come and one to come back, 2 hours and stay there. So he has also some kids. So in any case, I'm going to have an interview for him tomorrow, and I'll try to come together in the meeting.
I was going to suggest that even if people cannot come in physically, maybe we can have a video call, like a Zoom call. They can answer those questions via remotely. It's not that they have to come there. As long as we have the conversation, then it's great, you know.
Yeah.
So it could...
Personally, I would like to search deeply in his heart what are the challenges, how he feels, and so I would like to be somehow open conversation, to have a coffee, to have some laugh, and through there I'm going to understand what is going there, what are his problems, or what he thinks to have his profile. This is our intention. So if we have from far away some kind of interrogation, they don't feel so free, so they do not open their heart, so we do not understand what is really happening there.
Yeah.
You know, you can see that.
Yeah, and yes, and I guess Elena, if you can let us know whether your husband is able to participate, whether this remotely or in person on Tuesday, just to so we know that we have, if we need to find an avocado producer, just we need to be on the lookout. Yeah. Or if we have one, then great, then we have somebody we can work with. Yes.
Yeah,
that was a yes.
Was it a yes?
That was definitely a yes. Also, I can say I can contact with the avocado producers that I had interviewed for my thesis.
Yeah.
Where may I find someone? Maybe I may find someone that deals with bigger production and faces more challenges.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be lovely. I mean, just so just as long as we have, you know, we can kind of try to pull together our resources and networks to find those people for next week. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I mean, from our point of view, that's we pretty kind of we feel this is going somewhere really positive. So I don't know if you would like us to do. Yeah, are we?
Any more questions?
Any questions or anything you like to share with us, or wrap it up?
Yes, one thing that would be helpful for me also, and Lefteris, from what I understood at the beginning, because he has missed the line of in what phase we are, somehow confused. So we started from the team creation. We've continued to have some observing the challenges that are facing the sector, the Green Deal, the knowledge, start to have some knowledge of the issue. And afterwards, we put some situations, challenges in this funnel of design thinking that Manos showed to us. And we have a mess of ideas and the challenges and situation. And the next step was that we would try to clear this mess, to put them in the, correct me, Neil, if I'm making a mistake, because this is from what I have understand, trying to make in clusters in these 4 categories to be more clear. And now, this is our view. We would like to filter this situation with the real producers, the stakeholders, to see if we are to put some things aside, out, and focus in some other situations. And the next step is going to be some kind of proposing solutions.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 solutions. This is okay. So we're in the right pathway then. So for you, Lefteris.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I think we're in the same page, all of us.
Okay.
Now, probably. I hope we're in the same book, actually.
Same chapter, at least.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was great seeing you all.
Okay.
And, I think we agree we're going for next Tuesday again. It's going to be 12, 15, yes, same time, same place.
Cool.
Same place.
Okay.
Face to face,
So again,
not online. There.
just to let you know, guys, if you create a questionnaire, please do notify us so we can have a look by Monday.
Okay.
All right.
That'd be great.
Okay.
So
Sure.
you would like to make the appointment with the avocado producer on Tuesday, or on Tuesday to share their acceptance or not?
Ideally, we like to have them on Tuesday at the
There.
time that we meet.
Tuesday, yeah.
Well, again, it's
Okay.
either there or physically or during the time window that we're together to have a chat with them, even via Zoom call. I mean, anything that we can do, the best we can do anyways, but
Okay.
during the time that we meet.
Okay.
Make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's better that we share also in advance whether or not we know in advance whether or not there's somebody here
we need
physically,
confirmation,
because we need
Monday.
to to arrange the time. I mean, it's if somebody is to come like Eleni from somewhere else, I mean, we need to respect his time also, so we should know in advance, I think, in order to make the good arrangement.
So when we get confirmation from the people that we have been contacted, just to notify everyone that this is who is arriving when. So we, as Eleni says, we're kind of prepared for their arrival. Okay.
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 Perfect. All right. Well, have a lovely weekend,
Take
everyone.
care. You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
You too.
Have a nice weekend. See you.
Okay.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Qualifican.